Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 137 of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Tyler Johnson with you. So glad to have you with us. It is our season preview show as we get you ready for the Daytona 500, the great American race. We'll preview that race and look ahead to the rest of the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series season, the 76th season in the sport. We'll tell you everything you need to know. Chris Lafferty is along for the ride today as well. Former NASCAR driver, country music artist as well. We'll bring him in coming up in just a matter of moments. David joining us by phone. He is actually on the road to Daytona as we speak right now. And he joins us as he should be pulling into Daytona here pretty soon. David, the offseason officially over. How we doing, my friend? How's the road to Daytona treating you?
Man, it's awesome, man. Just excited. I'm about an hour north of Daytona. Was at Carl Long's shop today, just putting the final touches on our Camaro. And Missy and Rich from Alarm Tech Systems came through. They're from Reading, Pennsylvania, one of our partners in their motorhome, man. So I jumped in there with them, and we're almost here to Daytona. Almost time to get the season kicked off. And, man, I know all the fans are excited, and I am too.
David, I got to ask you, I know we got plenty to talk about today, but right off the jump, what does it mean to come back to Daytona again? Does it ever get old? Does going through there and start the NASCAR season, do you still get fired up as much as you did the very first time you raced there?
Man, Tyler, it's a great question. Just feel blessed. This is starting my 26th year. And, just thank God for all our partners. And, man, just that burning desire to race. And when you pull through the tunnel there at Daytona, and, man, you come out of that tunnel and see that great American Daytona International Speedway, dude, it's just like the first time I ever went there, It's just, I just absolutely love it. And excited to race. And just, I still pinch myself because it's incredible, Even after all these years, man, it just means that much to me.
Dominic Aragon joins us now from the racingexperts.com and brand new author of the new book by Jeff Bodine, his autobiography, which is available not officially today. Dominic, first off, congrats on the book, but welcome to Daytona. Another exciting season of NASCAR racing ahead.
Hey, thank you so much, Tyler. I know you guys have been some big cheerleaders for me along the way. And believe it or not, you or David or any of our guests have asked me, hey, how's the book going? That would motivate me. That would inspire me. And now we have it in hand, all of it. Daytona 500 champion tells the rest of the story. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart.com. And you can also order at teambodine.square.site to get a special autographed copy from Jeff. So, no, just over the moon about it. It's a dream come true. And to be there in Daytona this weekend when Jeff's going to be there and he's doing a book signing, I'm going to be there to help him. And I'll be there at Atlanta to help him the following week. Tyler, it's a small town dream come true for this kid from Grants, New Mexico.
Certainly excited for you and looking forward to reading the book. Where the hell is my copy of this book? I thought I was getting an advanced copy of this, but I guess
you and David, I sent it in the mail. What happened?
Yeah, still waiting for that, Dom. But
we must have been out of town, Tyler. But man, Dominic, I'm proud of you, buddy. Just growing up as a kid, loving the sport, all for years, and way before I made it to NASCAR. Jeff Bodine, obviously one of the greats of NASCAR racing, and to be able to be personal friends with him, but to be able to write his book, man, that's a huge compliment for you as a person and you and your skills you have. And I can't wait to read the book. I hear all kinds of great things about it. And even though me and Tyler are still waiting for it still waiting for Amazon to deliver it. I don't know when it's coming, but I can't wait to read it, man. And congratulations, buddy.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys. Like I said, thank you so much for all the support. I dream big. You guys know I dream big. I set lofty goals, and this book is an example of dreaming big, and dreams do come true for sure.
Our guest this week that is here along for the ride with us to set the scene for the Daytona 500 this weekend, Chris Lafferty, joins us right now, checking in from the motorhome and everything as he does. And he gets the rare accomplishment of being a third-time guest to Let's Go Racing, and we bring him in right now. Chris, I'll ask you the same question I asked David. What does it mean to come to Daytona all these years and seeing it on TV and being a part of it? Like, does it still feel the same to you seeing the Daytona 500 and how big this race is that it did the first time you were a part of it?
Well, let me just start by saying this. I'm going to derail this for just a second. I mean, all this hoopla about this Jeff Bodine book. I mean, come on. It's not like this guy's Cole Trickle or anything. I mean, he was a racer. He did some stuff. But all joking aside, man, this is a heck of an accomplishment, Dominic. So proud of you. And I've known Jeff for a long time. And that guy is a nice guy and a legendary racer. So I can't wait to learn how to read so that I can read that book. Circling back to your question about Daytona, I mean, look, man, just walking through the gate is it's a very humbling experience. And so, David can tell you, as a competitor and as a guy that just dreamed of doing this for years, Daytona sets the stage. It's like the Holy Grail,
David, you want to elaborate on that? What Chris is talking about here, just what Daytona means in that setting. Like, do you go back and think of the memories, the legends, people that have raced there?
Man, when you think about NASCAR racing, you think about Daytona. When you say Daytona out in public, people know you're talking about, NASCAR racing. It's everything. If there's a race that you ask every NASCAR driver, current, former, future, what race they want to win, it's going to have the word Daytona 500 or the Daytona truck race or the Daytona Xfinity race. It's just, man, it means everything. It's a little different. We just got through watching the Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl, but what kicks off our Super Bowl starts the first race right out of the box to start a new year. But man, Daytona's everything, just like Chris saying. Just, you're humbled. You're just, dreams come true when you can go through that tunnel and race there at Daytona National Speedway.
Chris, just as a fan watching, what are some of your favorite memories from Daytona over the years, and what do you think of when you go back down memory lane of what's going on in that place?
Oh yeah, that one's simple. I mean, you get to the track early in the morning. You can't see the corners because the fog is rolled in, and you're kind of nervous. I've got my I Love David Starr t-shirt on underneath my jacket, and I'm just hoping to run into the guy to get an autograph, So it's just, man, it's what legends are made of.
Yeah, it's something else. Dominic, you've been to Daytona now several times. You're about to get down there this week. What do you think of when you get to Daytona International Speedway?
Man, Tyler, I think of the history and just everything that has happened there since 1959, all the greats that have etched their name in Daytona's history and NASCAR history. I'm sure you could relate. I'm curious if you feel the same way too, Tyler. When you drive through that infield and you get off the boulevard, you get off that main straightaway, that main drag in Daytona Beach, you drive under the bridge, and then you turn off into the Speedway property and you start going under that turn 3 tunnel, and that big American flag greets you as one of the first things that you see as you pull in the infield. It's a pretty cool feeling as you start circling that infield, getting to where you need to go. It's an amazing feeling. And I got to tell you, too, one of the coolest places to shoot photos is there in turns 3 and turn 4 in the infield as the cars are zipping by. You better have that camera ready. You're only going to get a few hundred attempts at those cars coming by. But what a fun place to shoot. What a fun place to cover a race. And I was telling somebody else, too, it's really cool because there's so many people, as we've met and have people on the show over the years, Tyler, so many people from not only across the country, but across the world come from this place. And there's just so many people that love Daytona and all walks of life. And it's just really cool to see so many people unite and come to the Daytona 500 and everybody's united with those ear-piercingly loud engines on Sunday.
Yeah. David, you mentioned you're going to be racing for your buddy Carl Long this weekend. Tell us more about that and what you guys got going on that Xfinity program here.
Well, man, excited to, I'm going to run 15 races this year in the Xfinity Series, and with a different team, but Daytona wasn't one on my list. And Carl Long reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to come drive his car at Daytona. And I jumped on the opportunity. It's a one-race deal, but I was able to bring some of my great partners, and man, without the sponsors, nothing's possible in our sport these days. So, let me mention a couple of them. Dugan Real Estate, Alarm Tech System, our buddy Mark Tate with T-Top Manufacturing. Another company's been with me for a long time, Big B Steel Buildings, YostBarnes.com, Flurry, our buddy State and Flurry with Flurry Racing Stables, and my buddy Steve Coombs with the Health Mart Company. Man, it's just, without all these great companies helping, it's just, you got the Motor Coach store. That's my biggest sponsor this week, Brad Tate with the Motorsports store. And, man, without all these great partners, you couldn't do what you love to do. So, man, we're so thankful for all of them. And just excited, been at the shop for the last couple of days working with Carl and his team. And, man, we got that Chevrolet Camaro all signed up. They've just been working on it, and hopefully we'll have a great race.
David, walk me through the next couple days. As we're taping this, you're literally pulling in Daytona right now. But what are the next couple days unfold? Give us like an inside track leading up to the race day by day here.
Well, just tomorrow, a couple of media obligations with some radio stations, and stop by the Media Care Center. You got to weigh, as all the drivers got to weigh in. So I'll weigh in there. Visit with the NASCAR medical liaisons about your physical and go over all that stuff. Meet with them, and then the next morning I'll head over to the credential office, pick up my hard card, all my license stuff, and then I believe our garage opens Thursday for tech, and then spending some time with some of our sponsors, dinners, lunch outings, and it's just a lot of exciting stuff. Just taking care of business with the people that give you the money to race. Spending time with them, showing them around, introducing them to people, and just all the racing stuff. Just making sure you got everything done. Make sure all your uniforms, your helmets are in compliance, and just all that kind of stuff. We got a mandatory driver meeting Friday afternoon. Just all that kind of stuff. You got obligations with photos with I forget the company that does it, but they take you spend 30 minutes or an hour taking all these different photos. Then you do some stuff with Fox, and so there's a lot of stuff leading up to our practice, our race, qualifying, and stuff like that. But the next couple of days we'll be busy taking care of that kind of commitments that we have before we get the season kicked off.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Certainly looking forward to it. Let's talk about the race itself, guys. Chris, I'll start with you. This race is so wide open. So many guys can win this. I mean, we saw just last year, Ricky Stenhouse surprised a lot of people to win this race. Everybody knows about Trevor Bayne and Derek Cope and some of these great moments that we've had at Daytona over the years. Who are some names you're watching for to potentially contend, maybe even surprise some people to get in victory lane on Sunday, Chris?
Man, I don't think there's going to be any surprise. I mean, you look at how tough the RCR guys have been at Daytona for basically the last 18 years or 20 years or whatever it's been, just absolutely dominating. And now that Kyle Busch is over at RCR, it's like the best with the best, and love him or hate him, he's a bad dude. So I just think that that trophy is going to be heading to the RCR guys.
David, a lot of big storyline, of course, Toyota and Ford going with a new body on their cars in the Cup Series. Chevy bringing back their same Camaro from the last couple of seasons. How much of a factor do you think that's going to be for Toyota and those Ford teams having this new body?
Man, it's going to be interesting to see qualifying tomorrow night, and the dominance that Hendricks had here at Daytona. I think William Byron's won the pole. I don't have you or Dominic probably have all the stats, but I know William Byron and the Hendrick organization has probably won the pole 6 or 7 times out of the last 10 years. I don't know what it was. It's a lot. And, man, when it comes down to qualifying, you're going to see those Hendrick cars, fighting for the pole in second. Then you got, can't ever deny that Roush Yates power with Doug Yates, and then seeing the new body style. So there's a lot of question marks, a lot of changes, and it'll be kind of cool to see the Cup cars on the track to see, where they kind of all, where it all lays out, But, however it looks in qualifying, I can assure you of one thing. When they drop the green to start the Great American Race, the Daytona 500, the guy that did last can win the race. You know how these super speedway races are so exciting. You think about, you said Trevor Bayne, you think about the dominance of Denny Hamlin on these super speedways. You look at Ricky Stenhouse Jr., our last year's winner. You look at Michael McDowell, David Reagan. I mean, it's anybody's race, So it's so interesting to see how it all plays out and which manufacturer is going to have a little bit of advantage, which manufacturers work better together, when all the Toyotas line up to help them. And then it's every man for theirself right there at the end. But there's a lot of unknowns right now. It's exciting. Obviously the Cup guys were down in L.A., raced at the Coliseum a couple of weeks ago. There was a couple of a little bit of tempers flaring here and there. We'll see if that will continue. If they'll carry that into the first race, the Daytona 500. So it's a lot to watch for, and it's exciting. But it's, I just know when the Daytona 500 starts, man, it's going to be one heck of a race.
Dominic, give us the qualifying stats on Hendrick and Chevy there.
Well, like David, I don't have them right in front of me, but I can tell you in the last 6 Daytona 500 attempts, Alex Bowman, every year he has been in a Hendrick car for the Daytona 500, has sat on that front row. With the exception of 2020, it's been a Hendrick Motorsports driver sitting on the pole for the Daytona 500, Ricky Stenhouse being that exception in 2020. But Chevrolet's got it figured out. And Tyler, you and I were talking on it before we came on air. The last time Chevrolet didn't sit in a front row starting spot for the Daytona 500, you have to go all the way back to 2012 with Greg Biffle and Carl Edwards, I believe. Or it might have been 2011, but case in point, over a decade. We've had Chevrolet teams on that front row. Austin Dillon in 2014.
15 years.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a long time. Chevrolet has got qualifying figured out. Even moving qualifying to Wednesday night like they did last year, that didn't matter. Those driving conditions, and I'm sure Chris and David can weigh in more on that. I know that track changes from day to night, and probably argue that there's more grip, temperature drops, but it's not necessarily race conditions. But time and time again, Hendrick Motorsports seems to have that place figured out on pole day.
Yeah, they certainly do, it seems, on that front. Chris, let me ask you this. We know how big of a race this means for legacy-wise, and if you had to win one, this is the one that everybody wants to win. Who is the guy you think's got the most to gain? Who do you think would change the perception we think of them the most potentially if you added Daytona 500 champion to their resume?
I mean, it's all of them. I mean, it's one of those things that I don't care if you're a 20-year veteran or a rookie, whether you're adding an additional Daytona 500 win or adding a new win, it just adds to the history. It adds to your legacy. So it's important for everybody to cross that finish line first and be a Daytona 500 winner.
Yeah. David, I think the one that would be maybe the most polarizing, and he's got a good shot, he's run up here before, would probably be a Bubba Wallace win.
Yeah, absolutely. But, Bubba Wallace, we know he'll be strong. His cars, that 2020, what is that, 23-11 team. I mean, those guys, they're fast week in and week out. They're going to be fast on the super speedways. And like Chris was saying, every guy, no matter what their experience level, how many Daytona 500s they've won, if this is their first race or not, but to be the 2024 Daytona 500 champion, that's something you'll have forever. There's only so many men in the entire world that can say they won a Daytona 500. Very prestigious. There's a lot of bragging rights. The manufacturers want to win it. Everybody wants to win this race. They want to win week in and week out. But if there was a race that the manufacturers, the teams, the drivers say we want, this is the biggest win, this would be the Daytona 500. So, you look at 2311, you look at Bubba Wallace, and you just look at, Hendrick's organization, the Gibbs organization, just the Penske organization, on and on and on. All these guys are strong, and you just look at past history. Who's the guy that stands out? Ricky Stenhouse, he's just, for some reason, he's always up there. Michael McDowell's a great super speedway racer. Denny Hamlin, but all of them, they're all got great cars, great talent, and that's what makes this race so exciting to see who's going to be our 2004 Daytona 500 champion. You know what I mean? It's just so many unknowns right now. It'll be cool to watch qualifying tomorrow night. I mean, and like Dominic was saying, the dominance of Chevrolet winning the pole, being on the front row of so many years, is that still going to be the case? We're going to see a new manufacturer with these body changes. What's going to happen? So it's cool and exciting. And hey, tomorrow night about this time, we'll know.
Yeah. Dominic, we mentioned that this race is so wide open of so many potential possibilities, and Jimmy Johnson makes his return. He's back. There's some other guys that we typically don't see every week. I know AJ Allmendinger is getting a chance to run, even though he's not full-time in Cup this year. Who are some of the notable names that are kind of doing a one-off or coming back here for the Daytona 500 we typically don't see every week?
Well, I think Jimmy Johnson is a good starting point there. By the way, we'll get into odds later, but how can a 7-time champion and a 2-time Daytona 500 champion be 60-1 odds to even race, or to not race in the Daytona 500, but win the Daytona 500? Again, we'll get more into that.
Good equipment, too.
In good equipment. We know that Toyota equipment that he's in now is way better than that Chevrolet equipment that he had a year ago in that 84 team. But Jimmy Johnson, for starters, certainly comes to mind. David Aragon with RFK Racing and the 60 car, trying to, I don't know, Tyler, maybe pull a Trackhouse Racing with their Project 91 RFK 60, and that number being so important to the organization. David Aragon has always been great on super speedways. He's gotten his Cup wins at Daytona and Talladega. He's been up front when it counts. He finished 5th in his first Daytona 500 in 2007. I wouldn't put it past Tyler. We'll get into it later, but David Aragon, Jimmy Johnson, these one-off guys, they're not locked into the Daytona 500, but it wouldn't surprise me if they have the speed to pull that off in pole day qualifying tomorrow.
Yeah. We'll make our picks coming up later of who we have winning this, but I do want to talk about the championship too, with this being the start of a brand new season and everything. Kind of look at the championship outlook. Chris, I'll start with you on this one here. I feel like the biggest storyline heading into 2024, this guy's brought a lot of attention on himself. He's talked about, seems like more than any other driver these days, won the Clash and started the season with the bang, already calling out the fans saying, I beat your driver. I feel like the biggest story this year heading in 2024 is this the year Denny Hamlin finally breaks through and wins the championship? What do you think about that for Denny heading into this year?
Well, I'll tell you this, man. This is definitely the year that Denny's going to just keep running his mouth. I think he's correct me if I'm wrong. He's got the longest running sponsor for a driver in the Cup Series. And yes. I don't exactly know how long he's been in the Cup Series, but man, he went from young punk to seasoned veteran. And I think he's just got, he's loud and rambunctious again, and he's got nothing to lose. So it's certainly his to lose for sure.
Yeah. David, let's go to you on that. Denny searching for that championship. He's more outspoken than ever. How do you feel about Denny Hamlin heading into 2024?
Man, I think Denny's in a good spot. He's a seasoned veteran. He's won a lot of races, kicking off the year with winning at the Coliseum in L.A. I've seen somewhere where he He's said he's going to calm down on being a little bit, rambunctious and, saying I beat all your favorite drivers. I think that's behind him. I think he's engaged now. He's got a couple beautiful little girls, and I think he's in a good place. And, you see a guy that's one of the superstars of our sport and is so competitive. I feel for him. I hope it's his year. I'd like to see Denny because, away from all the spotlight and NASCAR, everything, he's a good friend, a great guy. And I don't know. I'd like to see him finally get his championship. I'd hate for him to ever end his career without a championship. This brings back memories of how great Martin was, man, one of the best all-time race car drivers that never won a NASCAR Cup Series championship. And that's a shame, So I think it'd be pretty awesome if we saw Denny win the 2024 championship. Just like Chris said, I agree with what Chris just said. I think it's his to lose, So, I think he's going to be more focused. I think, his personal life, his home life. I don't think he's married. I think he's engaged, has a beautiful family. And I just think he's at peace with everything. And, man, I think it's like Chris said, it's his to lose.
Dominic, I could argue, when you look at Denny Hamlin, what he's done to start 2311 Racing and being willing to step out and be the veteran of the sport and speaking out for changes in the direction of where it's going. I know he doesn't have a championship to his name, but you can't deny the impact that he's had on the sport. I'd argue of his generation, and he's a different generation than Jimmy Johnson, or Dale Jr. and all that. He's the generation after. There's not a more impactful driver of his generation than Denny Hamlin. I think that's ultimately, besides the wins, I think that's his overarching legacy right now.
Well, and the longevity too. Chris touched on it, and I thought it was a great point. The fact that he began his career at Joe Gibbs Racing, all 650 of his races have been in the 11 car. FedEx has been his primary partner. He's had pretty much the same colors since he started in the Cup Series. Even when you look at his go-kart, Tyler, down to his go-kart days, he drove the 11 with a purple and orange scheme. Like, how can you get more stars aligned than that? But the fact that he has been a mover and shaker as far as business operations and starting a team. And I think he said it best last year, too. It didn't matter what was going to happen with the Joe Gibbs stuff. They asked him, do you have options? Well, of course, I always have options. I own a race team. So he has leverage. He's in a very unique position. We're going to look back 20 years from now, no matter if Denny Hamlin wins a championship or not, 50-plus wins, a contender, the longevity, the status of the Cup Series and being in the Cup Series for 20-plus years. There's just so much to Denny Hamlin. And I would say, Tyler, I wouldn't have agreed with you maybe a couple of years ago, but Denny Hamlin is the best driver to have never won a Cup title.
Yeah. I'm glad you finally came around on that, Dom. I've been telling you that for a while. David, the Hendrick camp, pretty fascinating going into 2024. You got William Byron coming off a career season last year where he had more wins than anybody. You got Kyle Larson looking for his second championship, and I could argue he's been the best driver in the sport the last 3 years. You got Chase Elliott looking to bounce back after a disappointing season and for his second championship. And then there's Alex Bowman, who's kind of on the hot seat. A lot of pressure to perform in that 48 car after a bad year last year. What do you think of what's going on in that Hendrick Motorsports camp heading into 2024?
Well, man, you can never count that powerhouse team out, that organization, with the strength of that organization, Chevrolet behind it. It was surprising to see what happened there last year, with Chase Elliott not making the chase, how strong William Byron was and Kyle Larson was strong, but it was interesting to see. You didn't see, it seemed like we weren't used to seeing that, you know what I mean? So, as well, I think everybody knows that you can never count out any of those drivers, especially Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, William Byron, and then what's the other guys on the hot seat, a little bit on the hot seat?
Alex Bowman.
Yeah. He knows he's got a lot of catching up to do, but man, they have the resources, every resource that it would take, engineering, they have it all. And man, it'd be interesting to see if the whole they're a powerhouse, but a couple of their cars faded throughout the year. It's going to be interesting to see, because the drive, the champions, and that don't sit very well with the drivers, that organization. So it's going to be interesting, and I think it's going to be a big story throughout the year this year of watching how the Hendricks every team performs and how they bounce back. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Well,
you
Chris,
can never count out those guys.
Yeah, Chris. I mean, you look at Hendrick Motorsports. Faces change, but expectations don't. They're always high at that organization to compete at the very top. Of their 4 drivers, who do you like the most? Who do you think is going to be the most competitive, best shot to win the championship?
That one's easy. It's Kyle Larson. Here's the issue, and I love Hendrick Motorsports. I mean, it's being a fan of Jeff Bodine and watching every driver come through there. The part that is going to be unpopular coming out of my mouth is those guys haven't had to worry about eating or paying their bills at home. And so when you haven't had to be hungry, it's like, I don't know if that fighter is I don't know if it's there. I don't know if that fire needs to be lit under their butt because they're just not hungry. I mean, you think about the Jeff Bodine stories, the hey, we got one car and we either run well or we lock the doors. And those days are gone. And I know David coming into the sport years and years ago. I mean, like, you didn't know if you had a deal. It's like you didn't know if next week you were still going to be racing. And it's like that. I think that's missing. And I think the guy that has it the most is Kyle Larson. I mean, I hate to say it.
David, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. Those guys, that organization, there's nothing missing. They have everything that each team in that organization needs: technology, engineering, the best of everything, And I agree with Chris. If you're Alex Bowman, I mean, you got William Byron winning all these races. It's like, man, if you got the same everything, dude, I don't know. I mean, just that drive to be the best of that organization, to do your part per se. You'd hate to be the guy where everybody else is winning. You're just out there running the top 10s, So I think the pressure's on, for the guys that didn't perform much last year to get back to their winning ways, because as well as I do, Mr. Hendricks, Jeff Gordon, that organization, I don't know what their contracts are, and listen to Chris speak about, how hungry are they? You know what I mean? It's like, it just, man, they, like Chris said, they're going to pay their bills. They got plenty of money. It's not like, man, I got to win this race or finish good, or I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage. I don't believe any of them have that problem. But, man, as a competitor, as a race car driver, the best of the best, man, I don't know about you guys, but, man, I want to win. I want to win. I'm going to do whatever it takes. You don't know how bad that passion, that burning desire is in those guys, and like Chris says, do they got it or do they don't have it? You know what I mean? And, man, sometimes you got to dig deep, dude, whatever it's going to take. You almost got to take yourself out of having such a great life and go back to the basics. Like, hey, man, how did I get here? The grind, that passion, doing, sleeping in cars, doing whatever it takes to make it happen and get in race cars and drive your tail off for everything you ever dreamed of, Sometimes you got to take yourself out of that safe environment and go back to what got you there to get you back in the winner's circle. You know what I mean? That grind.
Oh, yeah.
And, I agree with Chris, too. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Especially like Alex Bowman, we mentioned him being on the hot seat. That, what you're talking about, was not very long ago of when he didn't have any money in his bank account, didn't have a ride, and was just trying to survive in this sport. And now he's one bad year away from being right back to that, So yeah, I'm right there with you. It makes a great point from both of you guys. Couple more things on this before we get to our news and notes here. Dom, the defending champ Ryan Blaney comes in and got a chip on his shoulder to an extent because all the talk off season long was, hey, he's the champion, but he only won 3 races. He didn't win at Phoenix. It wasn't a dominating season. We know that Penske's top equipment, Ford coming in with the new body and everything. I think there's pressure on Ryan Blaney and kind of him with a chip on his shoulder, something to prove that he was a worthy champion last year.
I think so. And I think that goes back to what you guys have been talking about, is having that chip on your shoulder, having that grind, getting back to the basics. You betcha Blaney has that chip on his shoulder. He's hearing all the noise. People are doubting the legitimacy of his championship. He won it fair and square in the format that we have currently in the Cup Series. But of course, critics are always going to say what they will. And you got to imagine that's got to fire you up a little bit as a competitor. But of course, you want to drown that outside noise as much as you can. You can't cancel it all out. So whatever is getting to him, I'm sure he's going to use that as fuel, Tyler. Use that as motivation to have an even better 2024 season. Because you're right. The stats, the numbers look like an 8th to 10th place car all year. He did have some flashes of brilliance, but he was good when it counted.
Yeah, Chris, I think that actually might be kind of a bad position for everybody else. A champion that's hungry for more, not content.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, yeah, if he's not getting the respect that he feels like he deserves, or there's something missing, and as a driver or competitor, just because you win, it doesn't mean that you're fulfilled. So if something is missing, I mean, he comes from a family of racers. He's a quality racer, and a man who's hungry, you can't get in his way.
Yeah. One more thing, David, and then we'll move on here. I got to talk about the Stewart-Haas camp. Made some major changes this offseason here as Chase Briscoe's back. Ryan Preece is back for a second year. But now you bring in Noah Gragson in one seat, and then Josh Berry replaces the legendary Kevin Harvick, who was the best driver that organization ever had here. And they're coming off a disappointing season where nobody won a race in 2023. And Tony Stewart has made it very known what they did last year was unacceptable, that they cannot let that happen again. He's putting the pressure on his team and his drivers to perform. David, what do you think about this new era there at Stewart-Haas Racing? And who do you expect to have a good year from there?
Well, man, they have 4 talented race car drivers, young guys that are hungry, who have proven themselves, can get the job done, You think back to this past season and to see Kevin Harvick, there was a glimpse of a lot of speed. Seemed like, they had speed, not consistently, but he was pretty fast, but the other cars struggled, And I'm not saying, when Kevin Harvick's not pulling in the victory lane, y'all seen he was dominant, he was fast, a lot of speed, not consistent, but he was there a lot. And, I just think, their engineering, technology, the engineering, I don't know what's going on with their race cars, but, to me, it's something in the race cars. It's not exactly how they want them. I'm not going to say it was the drivers, because the drivers they had are very capable. I think Stewart-Haas is a little bit behind, and where they're behind at, to me, a little bit behind on this new car, And I think when the new next gen car first came out, I think they were on top of it, and had a little bit of a handle of it. But a lot of these teams have caught up, and really, like you said, Stewart-Haas, it's no big secret they're struggling. And like Tony was saying, hey, I don't do the setup, so I'm trying to put those key people in place. And man, it's been interesting to watch kind of the fall of Stewart-Haas racing. But we're not, we're seeing them winning and contending for championships. So it'll be interesting to see is this all season the improvements that made to their organization and their cars. And you look at the Brad Keselowski in the Rouse organization, to see Brad go over there as part owner and to see what he's done and the key people he's put in place. I mean, you could see that place getting better week in and week out. And then to have Chris Buescher win 3 races and to see Brad up there contending for wins, man, these guys, they put their heads down and, man, they got to work, and it worked. And I think you're going to see that out of Stuart Haas. You know, it's been a lot of talk. Tony's been really engaged with the fans and with everybody. You know, I think I saw where he's getting a lot of the fans are on him, you know, faulting him for the down, you know, kind of the downfall of the performance of the organization. And Tony's saying, hey, look, I don't do the setups. I try to hire the right people. I got great talents in the seat. So it'll be interesting to see moving forward throughout the year this year, because you know the drivers they had, Noah Gragson, Josh Berry. I mean, these guys are winners. They won championships. And, you know, and then the other 2 guys have been there for, I think they're 2 or 3 years. I mean, you know, be interesting to see if there's a big turnaround there, because it is a big story. It has been a big story. So it'd be interesting to watch see how it all turns out.
Yeah, definitely so. Definitely so. Dominic, I'll ask you this, and then we'll move on to news and notes here. Who is going to have the best year, you think, from that Stuart Haas camp?
Yeah, it's a great question. One combined win among the 4 drivers, but that's set to change in 2024. You got to think Chase Briscoe stepping up as the veteran, having a great year. He's shown that he can do great things in the Cup Series, led a bunch of laps at Phoenix. He had some great runs last year, and I know they had the big point penalty that really set them back in points, but you put all that aside, and Chase Briscoe almost won at Texas in the fall. So we have seen some really good opportunities out of that 14 camp. I feel like Chase Briscoe has to step up. The flagship car of that organization now that Harvick is out, that 14, the first car that was with the rebranding, you got to step up. You got to feel like there's pressure, especially when Tony Stewart signs you and brings you in, and this is a guy you look up to. You don't want to let the big boss down.
Yeah, certainly. All right. Our news and notes time. Go ahead.
Tyler.
Yes.
You just talk a little bit more about this. You look at what the Penske organization's done and what the Rouse Fenway organization's done. So, you know, you look at, you know, Ford won the championship, you know, and Chris Buescher won 3 races. I don't have all the stats in front of me. But, man, to me, you know, just Ford in general as a manufacturer in the Cup Series, you know, you can't just sit here and say, oh, they got an aero disadvantage or this, because, man, the Ford cars have been pretty competitive, you know, winning races. And so it's interesting to see if the personnel changes that they've made over there at Stuart Haas Racing, to see if it's going to make a difference. I just feel like, I mean, they've gotten behind, and you know, it's like, man, why have they gotten behind? You know, and they reach over to their manufacturer teammates and get some help. But, man, you know, we see what's going on, and, man, it's interesting because you think the manufacturer, all these different organizations that are Ford, you think they work together. Well, if they work together, then they sure left Stuart Haas out. You know what I mean? So very competitive, and you don't really know how much information all the teams, even under the same manufacturer umbrella, you know, don't look like they were reaching out too much to Stuart Haas, helping them out. So it'll be interesting to see if Ford maybe came together with all their teams to say, hey, we want to build all our teams up, share some information. Be interesting to see how that all turns out and how it works.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a great point for sure. News and notes time for the latest headlines around the sport. Dominic, go ahead and take us away. Where we want to begin?
We're going to begin with sports betting. We're coming off the biggest, arguably the biggest American sports betting weekend with the Super Bowl. We have the Daytona 500 ahead, and we have some of the odds a little bit better broken down, courtesy of our friends at the Racing Experts, Jonathan Field, in his article with the odds heading into the weekend. So your favorite by Sportsbook. Here's how we're going to break it down. BetMGM has Brad Keselowski at 11-1. Bet365, Brian Blaney at 9-1. Blaney's the favorite again, 12-1 at BetRivers. Caesars has Keselowski at 8.5-1. Denny Hamlin is the DraftKings favorite at 9-1. And a lot of these names pop up among the other 5 favorites by Sportsbook. Chris Buescher's name pops up, Kyle Busch a couple of times, Brad Keselowski. Guys that haven't won the Great American Race yet, they are some of the favorites. Some of your mid-range picks include Ricky Stenhouse Jr., your winner last year, He's at 30-1. And Bubba Wallace sitting with 2 second-place finishes in the Daytona 500. He's still sitting at 20-1 as well. Martin Truex edged 2016, same thing, 20-1. And then when you look at the long shots, Tyler, we'll go across the board here. Some of these from select organizations: Zane Smith, 80-1, Corey LaJoy, 66-1 via Bet365. Riley Herbst, 85-1. AJ Allmendinger, who has had some good runs at the Daytona 500, 80-1 as well. The highest ones that you see, though, Anthony Alfredo at 100-1. David Aragon at 100-1 as well, which surprises me because that's going to be really good equipment.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, based on all those odds, this is anyone's guess. This is wide open. So that kind of leads us into our official race picks. Chris, we'll start with you. Who is the winner of the 2024 Daytona 500?
Well, so I said it before. I got to go with Kyle Busch. I just feel like he's got enough of an attitude, enough of a chip on his shoulder. And, I wish I could go with the guy with the coolest name, but since David Starr is not running the Cup race, I got to go with Kyle Busch.
David, follow that up. Who wins the Daytona 500?
Well, I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin.
Okay. And that would be Denny's third, right, Dom?
Fourth. That would be his fourth Daytona 500. I got to go the same.
He's been so dominant with, these super speedways. There's so many to pick from. You got to pick one, so I'm going to say Denny Hamlin.
Okay. Dom, go ahead. Who you got?
No, I'm with David there. Maybe it's the boring vanilla pick, but it's the right pick, I think, for the 2024 Daytona 500. Plus, Tyler, we were talking about this on air before. We have so many parallels to the 2020 season in sports. He won the Daytona 500 in 2020. Denny Hamlin gets it done in 24.
Yeah, David, what are you going to do now? You can't pick Kevin Harvick on the show every week now.
Come back on that.
I said, David, what are you going to do now? You can't pick Kevin Harvick on the show every week now.
Well, I got to find a new guy.
He'll find
some.
Man. Yeah. I'm going to go with the defending champion of the sport, Ryan Blaney. He's very good at super speedways. We mentioned he's got something to prove here. I think Blaney
gets
it done.
Tyler.
Yeah. What about the championship now? Let's start with Dom this time. Who do you like to take home the Cup title?
We did the show last year, and I went into this whole big old number spill about Denny Hamlin going to break this curse, win the championship. And I wrote that all season. It just didn't happen. It's so hard with the playoffs, and then it comes down to a one-race battle. But I got to imagine some redemption comes in 2024. Tyler, I think you'd be proud of me on this pick because of who you like to pick every week. Last year, it's the 24-24. William Byron secures that first title.
He should have won it last year, if we're going to be honest. I think he should have won that title last year. Very good pick. I'm going to stay within the organization. I think this guy raced a lot better as the year went along. He's been the best driver the last 3 years in the sport. I think Kyle Larson takes home his second career NASCAR Cup Series championship. He's my pick in there than Hendrick Camp. Chris, who wins the title?
Oh, man, this is an easy one. Bear with me for a second. So here's what I think is going to happen. Jeff and Dominic's book's going to do really well. Sponsors are going to come out of the woodworks. Jeff Bodine is going to come out of retirement, go back racing for Hendricks, win the championship. That's my pick, Jeff Bodine.
Wow.
There's still time to get on the entry list of the Daytona 500.
I heard there's an opening. We're going to talk about it in news and notes. Yes.
Okay. All right, Jeff. Beyond that, David, if it's not Jeff Bodine, who's winning the title?
Well, I think that our champion, 2023 champion, Ryan Blaney, I think, man, he's got a taste of all that notoriety and just winning the championship. Ryan was a pretty laid back. He was a great race car driver, competitive. But, man, finally getting his first championship, tasting all that victory and all that celebration, and just, to me, I think it might have lit that fire a little hotter inside his body, So I think Ryan Blaney is going to be one to watch, but I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin. I think this is his year, and I think he'll be the champion.
All right. So 2 for Denny, 1 for Kyle Larson, and 1 for Jeff Bodine as well. So
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Dominic, what else we got going on?
Well, we were alluding to just a few seconds ago, there is an open ride now for the Daytona 500 at the taping of this podcast. New York Racing, the 42nd entry for the Daytona 500 with their number 44 car, is entered for the race to be announced as the driver. Hint, hint, maybe David Starr will be in that car this weekend. But on a serious note on it, Greg Biffle was supposed to be the driver, allegedly. But Biffle came out with a statement, friend of the show, saying that prior obligations were not met and that he just couldn't find himself racing with the organization. Wished him the best of luck. Open ride, though. It looked like Biffle might have had an opportunity to run the Daytona 500 again. No word. And Tyler, the hauler even had Biffle's name there on the windshield where the appropriate name goes in the Cup Series. That's been cleaned off. And apparently the hauler also had Biffle's signature, and that has been removed as well.
So, David, would you like to step in and race the New York Racing car in the Daytona 500? Are you available?
I'm available, and Chris would, everybody would. I mean, I got to be honest with you. Ever since I knew what NASCAR stock car racing was, the Daytona 500 is iconic. And again, we've talked about it so much on the show already, but man, I would love to jump in that car and try to make the Daytona 500. It'd be a dream come true for me, for Chris, and for others who have never had the opportunity. But man, I would love to. I've been doing this 26 years, been racing at Daytona for a long time, and I've run the Firecracker 400 or whatever you call the race at the Cup level, but I've never raced in the Daytona 500. And before it's all said and done, I'd like to have the opportunity to race in the Great American Race one day. And man, I'd love to jump in that 44 car. It's
Chris,
sad to hear.
Yeah. It's very sad to hear. Chris, that's
sad to hear what's going on.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Chris, about that situation. You're a team, as far as we know, they don't have a driver. Maybe they have something lined up behind the scenes they haven't announced yet, but we're about to qualify these cars in less than 24 hours. I mean, what a frantic and hectic situation that must be for that team right now.
Oh yeah, you're panicking because here's the thing. It's not just that you don't have a driver, because you go, okay, there's several guys who are cleared to jump in that car, for instance. So David Starr walks up to the car, since he's going to be in Daytona and I'm currently in Charlotte, walks up to the car. What if the seat is not mounted right for him? What if the cockpit isn't right? You add a lot of things that a lot of variables that can make it uncomfortable for a driver. And I'll tell you this, TV doesn't do justice on what it takes to get a car around the track at Daytona. Everybody thinks, they go, all right, it's Daytona. You hold it to the wood and you just steer it straight, right? But so I was thinking about my very first lap at Daytona. I'm going, yeah, you just hold it to the wood. But you come on down that back stretch, right? You go into turn 3, and my leg is shaking so bad I want to lift because I don't know if it's going to stick. I'm putting my left foot on top of my right foot, just to turn that first lap wide open. And I'm going to send this to David. I mean, when you think about your first lap getting back on Daytona, do you get that jitter? Do you think about if your name gets called to jump in that 44, are you nervous?
Man, you just, there's a lot of, how much practice you're going to get. There's a lot of challenges for a last minute driver change. And it sounds like that's what's going to happen, because you guys know as well as I do, I would jump at the bit, whether that seat fit me or not. Perfect. But man, you guys have seen it year after year. There's always going to be a big one. And if you're in that big one, man, you want everything just perfect. With all the safety that we have built into these cars and the seats and everything, you want to take advantage of that, So that will be a big challenge. Finding somebody that's Greg Biffle's size, if Biffle's seat is in there, to be able to sit in there, be comfortable, and everything's safe and snug for the drivers. So that is a big challenge ahead of them. The second thing I want to say, I didn't really realize all this was going on. I saw a statement from Biffle, I think, yesterday, briefly, and I read it real quick. And what I think he was saying was that their financial obligation to Greg Biffle wasn't met. They probably still owe him money. And, man, that's not good. Greg Biffle is a champion, a winner, one of the all-time greats of NASCAR. And, man, if that's the case, he have a hard time finding a driver to get in that car, because, if they can't pay Greg Biffle, how are they going to pay anybody else? You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of interesting, to read in what Biffle's statement, and it's sad that it came down to that, but Biffle could be in the Daytona 500, but, they didn't meet his obligations last year, and you got to draw a line in the sand somewhere.
Yeah. Dom, are you hearing any leads of who could be in that car? Obviously, we'll know something here soon, but what's the direction that sounds like it's going?
I haven't. To be honest with you, I haven't seen anything come across my way that has said this driver may be in or the others. But you see rumblings on social media, and you got to figure maybe somebody like a J.J. Ailey could be available, or a Matt DiBenedetto, somebody who has been in the Cup Series very recently, or someone that might already be in Daytona who could be pulling double duty. Got to imagine a name like that. Maybe somebody with the Chevrolet Alliance. A name I heard that actually got thrown out maybe would be Ty Dillon. If New York Racing has a Richard Childress engine, you got to think Ty Dillon might be the natural candidate for that car.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Dominic, what else we got here?
So another thing surrounding the Daytona 500, the longest droughts when we're talking about the Daytona 500. Tyler, we have some really big names who have never won the Daytona 500. There are 7 past Daytona 500 winners attempting the field this weekend. So that tells you there's 35 other drivers who have never won the race. I'm going to go through some of these numbers. And these are drivers that have had at least 10 attempts or more at the Daytona 500. AJ Allmendinger, Kyle Larson tied at 10 apiece. Allmendinger's best finish was 3rd. Larson's has been 7th. Brad Keselowski at 14 attempts. His best finish in the race was 3rd, and that was 10 years ago. David Aragon has got his name back in the field. He has 16 attempts at the big race. His best finish was in 2020 when he was running for Rick Ware Racing in the 36 car. Kyle Busch, with 18 attempts, has never won the Great American Race. And Tyler, he is the only driver in the top 10 of the NASCAR Cup Series wins list to have never won a Daytona 500. So let that sink in. And then finally, of all the drivers who have never won the Daytona 500 that are active and on the entry list, Martin Truex Jr. with 19 attempts. Lost by about that much in 2016, about a couple inches worth to Denny Hamlin, his future teammate. Other drivers who have yet to win the Daytona 500, Ryan Blaney at 9 attempts, Chase Elliott at 8 attempts, Chris Buescher at 8 attempts, Bubba Wallace, 6 attempts. So a lot of drivers, a lot of good drivers, future Hall of Famers have not won that Daytona 500. I think Brad Keselowski said it best. You don't win the Daytona 500. The Daytona 500 chooses you as the winner.
Well, Chris, let's start with you on this. You picked Kyle Busch to win this. As Dominic mentioned, he's never won the Daytona 500. I mean, we mentioned him and some of these other names that have never won it. They've had these Hall of Fame careers. It's so incredible because, yes, anyone can win this, but that doesn't take away how tough this thing is still to win.
Yeah. Listen, just getting your car through tech, you should get a trophy for getting the car through tech. I mean, David can attest to that some days you just don't know. So yeah, I mean, it's anybody's game at Daytona, but at the same token, it's like, man, you got to be there at the end. You got to miss that big one, and you just never know. I mean, it's like, we were just talking about the Super Bowl, which, by the way, I was born and raised in the Bay. San Francisco 49ers are my guys. Man, I feel bad they lost, but it's just like that. I mean, you can be on top, and then it just turns and you're in the back, or you could be in the back. The next thing you know, you're the winner. So it can change fast.
Yeah. And David, just because you have that Hall of Fame career, it doesn't always mean that you're going to get that. I mean, Tony Stewart came so close. It took Dale Earnhardt 18 times here. And now here we are, attempt number 18 for Kyle Busch.
Yeah, you just took the words right out of my mouth, Tyler. I was going to say, took Dale Earnhardt, I think it's 20th try. I think it was 20th. It might be 18. You look at Darrell Waltrip. I mean, lots of the Hall of Famers that took them 18, 20, 21, 22 times. You know what I mean? So, anything's possible. Like Chris is saying, you just never know. You got to be there at the end. You got to be able to, have the racing God, have that luck on your side. Be there at the end. You could be in the back. Next thing you know, you're the Daytona 500 champion. There's so much drama and a lot of challenges throughout the race. It's the first race of the year. Everybody's antsy to win. Everybody wants to get out there and race hard. And man, it's intense. You're on top of each other, and things happen. There's going to be a big one. You just don't want to be part of it. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a Kyle Busch in victory lane. Denny Hamlin again. But man, it's that's why it's a Daytona 500. Like Dominic said, I guess nobody wins it. The 500 picks the winner. But it's it's always interesting and challenging to win the Great American Race. And you look at Denny Hamlin with 3 wins, and I think Richard Petty won it 7 times. Those are just records that probably will never ever be broken, to win that thing 7 times. It's amazing because it's so hard and it's so competitive, and there's so many obstacles throughout the race. And again, if you can just mess the big one or big ones, be there at the end. It's just a challenge, But it's exciting, and that's what keeps us all, on the edge of our seats watching it. See who's going to win, because there's so many people can win it.
Well, and real quick on this, Dom, we've talked a lot about Kyle Busch, obviously, but Martin Truex is an interesting story because there was a lot of retirement speculation this past offseason. He ultimately comes back. For Martin Truex, who you mentioned came so close several years ago, who knows? This very well could be his last shot.
It seems like it could, but then there was also an interview with Bob Parkers that he had a one-on-one with Fox Sports a few days ago, and it got released in part on X, on Twitter. And Truex was saying that he can't imagine leaving the sport without winning the Daytona 500. Maybe if he wins the Daytona 500, it could very well be his last year, or at least his last full-time year, because he's flirting with that the last 2-3 years. Is he coming back? Is he staying? No past champion that is currently racing has announced that they're going to be retiring anytime soon. Truex would probably be at the top of that list. But you got to imagine, like Chris was saying earlier, you got to feel a little unfulfilled if you don't have that Daytona 500 win to you. And Truex has got to be feeling that. 19 wins. He's dominated. He's never won on a super speedway either, Tyler.
Yeah, and that's something. And he's been good, too. That's the thing that's surprising. So
another time, he was for getting that checkered flag at the Daytona Firecracker 400 in 2018, and then the green-white checkered happened. Finished second to Eric Jones. So many close attempts.
Yeah.
One thing about Truex, I want to go back to his retirement. It's when the next gen car came out, and they were used to dominating, winning a lot of races. When the new car came out, kind of equaled up the playing field for everyone, and they didn't have that big advantage in trying to get their arms wrapped around what the car needed, what they needed for Truex to drive it like he needed to drive it. They struggled to get the car to do what Truex wanted it to do. It kind of, that period of time, which I think was probably a year's time, going to the racetrack week in and week out, not being competitive, being frustrating. I think it took the fun out of it for him. He just said, man, if we can't get our arms around this thing, if this is the way it's going to be, I'm just going to retire out of this thing. And then once they finally got their arms wrapped around it, figuring it out, he got closer to winning, and then finally winning. I think it was fun again, so we didn't hear that much about retirement. And I don't know about you guys, and maybe I hadn't paid much attention to that, but I hadn't heard any rumblings of that kind of talk. Have you guys here lately?
Not really. Not in a while, Dom.
No, I can't say I have either. But the sport changes so much. Like David was saying earlier, you can experience the highs of the sport and the lows of the sport, and you just never know what's going to happen and how that influences decisions.
Yeah, definitely so. All right, let's get to our final segment, our Ask David segment, where you guys submit questions to us on Facebook Facebook.com/Star Podcast, X @Star Podcast, also by email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us there. And our first question for the whole panel, we'll start with David on this one. David, how was your off season? What did you do? This question coming in from Mary, by the way. Mary wants to know just how was the off season? What'd you do?
Man, that was a great question, Mary. Well, the off season, I try to enjoy Thanksgiving and Christmas time with my family first and foremost, and caught up on being a husband and a dad a lot. I was busy with my racing school business, the Team Texas Racing School business that I have based at the Texas Motor Speedway. And then the rest of my time was spent with different companies, introduce them to the sport, trying to get them to be a part of the sport, be a partner of mine, be a sponsor of mine, understand the benefits from it. I spent lots of time, and still am, with new companies trying to introduce them to NASCAR racing and what the sport can do for their company. So just lots and lots of time meeting with companies, trying to get all the partners I can get, so we can be competitive, bring funding to a team to have better equipment, have engineering, have technology. And that's what my winter looked like, my off season looked like this year.
Chris, go ahead.
What was the question? I was listening to David, and I was mesmerized by how cool his voice is. He's got that Texas accent, and I'm like, man, I just want to emulate some of that and just sound cool.
Chris,
you're way cool.
Not as cool as a David Starr.
Chris, maybe even a little more broader, beyond just the off season. But since we last talked, what are the things going on with you? What have you been up to, man?
My little tour bus business has been doing pretty well. We've been growing pretty substantially. We took on a Hollywood A-lister who is a musician by the name of Keanu Reeves. And I got to spend 2 months straight out on the road with Keanu and his band Dog Star, which they've been just man, their music is just so awesome. And it has opened some opportunities for my band, and we've opened a show for them in Charlotte, and creating some further opportunities in the future.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Dominic, you got the book out, but you've been up to plenty of stuff too.
Oh yeah. Oh, by the way, Chris, if you ever need a fill-in drummer, just call me. You got my number. I'd be happy.
I'll do it, man. I will do it.
I'll step up too.
Yes, I'm just playing in a band. I'm one of my favorite hobbies. My wife and son don't know about drummer Dom and that side of me, but no. Anyway, the book kept me busy over the off season, getting all that promoted, and besides that, just like the personal stuff, trying to be at home and spend time with Felice and Christopher, and just like David said, be a husband, be a dad. Try to do everything you can on the home front. So it was a good blend, Tyler. A lot of good family time, a lot of good time to also just rest and relax, but also just work on other projects and march ahead towards 2024. And I know you, Tyler, you stay busy. I know it's not the Summer of Jones quite yet. That's been shelved because it's wintertime, but I know you're just as busy during the wintertime.
Yeah. Certainly a lot of NFL stuff in my world. Just wrapped that up. My Chiefs win the Super Bowl, so that certainly made me happy.
Boo. Let me just say boo to that lifetime 49er fan. Boo to the Chiefs.
So that was a great way to end it. And in fact, you can see behind me. I know David can't see because he's on the phone. My wall here, I got Kansas Speedway, and then there's Patrick Mahomes right there, both behind me. So on set. But yes, great football season, but certainly excited to get back to the NASCAR world and see my NASCAR family. I'll be in Vegas here in a few weeks. So it'd be great to be a part of that and everything that unfolds there. But off season in NASCAR just goes by so quick. We're right back at it. Not in Daytona this year. I took the year off from Daytona, but I'm sure I'll probably be back next year and looking forward to being out there again. Another question in the mailbag of this week, and this one comes from Tanner, and Tanner wants to know, this one's for Chris. Chris, what is on your Spotify playlists, or what are you listening to these days?
Oh man, well, so right now I've got I try to stay loyal to my clients, right? And so on my Spotify playlist right now is Motley Crue guitarist John Five, and just the wizardry of a guitarist. He's on tour right now, one of my clients, and Glenn Hughes. Glenn Hughes is best known for being the in the band Deep Purple. He's out on tour right now, so I support my clients. And then of course my Dog Star guys, Keanu Reeves, Rob, and Brett. Those guys, their music is right up our age alley. It's perfect. So that's what's on my Spotify.
David, I know you're a big music guy. You love listening. Maybe not Spotify, but at least to the radio anyway. What are you listening to these days, David?
Luke Combs, Toby Keith. Man, you'd be amazed at the different diverse music I have. Motown, Journey, Robert Plant. You know what I mean? I just it's all kinds. So. Yeah, but man, I'm stay true to my roots. I love my classic country. I love country, but man, I love my classic rock and roll too. So yeah.
David,
come on, David. You've got Right Said Fred's "I'm Too Sexy" on repeat. That's true.
I don't know about all that, Chris.
Hey, David, you mentioned Toby Keith. He and I are from the same home state from Oklahoma. I was so sad to hear about him passing away last week. What is just a great American, great guy Toby Keith was.
Man, unbelievable. Man, it was sad to hear the news. When we saw him at the awards, the Grammy Awards. I don't remember what they called it, but he didn't lose his wittiness because he was kind of funny, about the skinny jeans and things like that. But man, I think he was at peace with everything. Hearing him talk, but man, we're gonna miss him. He made some good music, entertained lots of people, and man, and that, Chris might know a little bit more about him, but, they said he really helped Taylor Swift get her start, and I'm sure he did for a lot of others. But man, that's just sad news, to be honest with you. It's just sad. And man, it just goes to show you life's precious, cancer sucks, and yeah, it's terrible.
Chris, did you get to know Toby Keith at all?
I'd never met the guy. I've had the pleasure of meeting some great musicians. Toby Keith was never one of them. But, it's one of those things. I mean, the guy was a straightforward, he was a straightforward country guy. Kind of put me in mind as cool as David Starr is, just you knew what you got when he walked through the door. You knew who he was. And, he lived life, man. So we've all got this death sentence coming. And I feel like he was one of the guys who took life. He lived it to its fullest. We're going to miss him, but man, that guy, he cashed in all his chips. That's for sure.
Yeah, he certainly did. Dominic, what do you listen to?
Man, you guys are going to think I'm stuck in a time warp. I grew up in the wrong era, and I've had this conversation with Chris off air, but I'm a classic rock guy, classic metal. My mom's got that classic rock 80s feel. My dad's got the metal stuff. So I get a little bit of, I think, a blend from them. And I can appreciate stuff outside of that too. But currently, I was just looking through it. You're going to see 38 Special, The Cars, The Police, Def Leppard, Steve Miller Band. That's about my speed on stuff. I like stuff like 311, Rancid. There's some good, like, newer music I listen to, but yeah, Tyler, I'm kind of all over the map, but definitely the classic rock guy of the group. How about you?
I love me some country music. Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen, come to mind right away. Thomas Rhett, I saw in concert a while back. He was fantastic. Since she took care of my tight end so well, I have listened to more Taylor Swift lately, even though she wasn't my favorite. But we got the Super Bowl, so thank you, Taylor, for helping out Travis on that front. But I've always liked John Mayer too. He's been one of my favorites. A lot of great music. I'm always listening to music all the time, but love going to concerts too. I mentioned Thomas Rhett. I saw Morgan Wallen last year. Saw Dustin Lynch a while back. I've seen Luke Combs too. think I'm going to try to go to Luke Holmes' concert in San Antonio this year too. So yeah, love the music scene there for sure. Guys, we got to wrap up. We got to get out of here in just a moment. But first, let's just kind of go around the room real quick, what everybody's got going on here these next couple of days. Chris, where are you off to next? Where are your journeys taking you these days, man?
Well, we just came out of the studio with our country album, putting that together. It's in the hands of professionals, mixing, mastering. We're putting our tour together. So to answer your question, I know at some point we're going on tour. I just don't have the specifics just yet.
Dominic, you're off to Daytona here in a couple days, right?
I'll be off to Daytona. I'm going to be there covering the race weekend with our team at theracingexperts.com. And of course, helping promote this bad boy with Jeff Bodine and the team out there in Daytona. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Got a couple of book signings to help with there over the weekend, as well as media obligations that I've got to do on my end with our team. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a little bit of both. Get to see the book stuff getting promoted, and we'll see where that takes it. And of course, covering the race weekend for our team.
Yes. And we mentioned David arriving, should be there any minute, actually, there in Daytona, and he'll be racing in the Xfinity race. David, real quick, tell us about the Xfinity race and how many trips you and Carl will be making to the Wing House this weekend.
Well, I don't know about how many trips we're going to be making there, but I'm sure it'll be one or two. But just pulled into Buc-ee's to load up on some goodies, and be pulling into the Speedway here in about 20 minutes. And man, I'm just excited to kick off another NASCAR season, 2024. To see the truck race Friday night, kick off their season, back it up with our Xfinity race Saturday evening, and then to see the Daytona 500. Man, it's going to be a great weekend of racing and a lot of excitement. All the drivers and teams are ready to go. Everybody's been working all winter, and it's going to be fun to finally take the green flag and get back to what we love doing. So going to be a busy week for a lot of us, and but I appreciate us getting together doing our podcast tonight. It's been great.
Yeah. And
Chris, thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Chris, I have to ask, do you have a guitar around you by chance?
Man, you know what? You caught me guitarless. I set my guitar with the most important things, my I Love David Starr t-shirt, my David Starr posters, and my guitars are all sitting in the bank vault. So
I was going to have you play us out, but we'll save that for another day,
Yes.
Oh, great stuff. Appreciate Chris Lafferty for being here with us. David Starr, Dominic Aragon, Tyler Jones, as always. Make sure to subscribe to Let's Go Racing. We are back. We were here in and out throughout the off season, just kind of enjoying ourselves, taking time to be with our families and everything. But we'll be back now every single week. You can expect a new episode out each and every Wednesday, wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube. Subscribe, like, review, give us a 5-star review, or leave us one at all. Hit us up on social media, X, @Star Podcast. Also on Facebook, @Star Podcast. You can find us there, and we'd certainly appreciate it. For our entire crew, David Starr, Chris Lafferty, Dominic Aragon, I'm Tyler Jones, saying so long. Enjoy the Daytona 500. Let's go racing. Let's go, David, and we'll see you next week.